Hello and welcome to our January bullet journal. So if you have done our bullet journal setup for 2023, then you will have an idea of what is included in today's tutorial. We'll be using some watercolour paints, and I'll also be using 3 different paint brushes, a flat head, you can still see the dirt on my fingers from the other tutorial, the round-headed medium brush and a pointed small brush. I've got my hexagonal pencil, I've got a 0.1 fine liner and a 0.8, and of course a rubber. And for today I will be using the monthly calendar stamp set, which I've only got one left in stock, but I will be getting some more in the new year, so if anybody wanted those they will be back in stock, but I have one left. They do come with an ink pad, and they come with the acrylic block, so everything that you need to get started. So let's have a little look at what we are creating today. So this is January's page. So it's a kind of blue wintry watercolour with trees, and we do have a little deer there as well. I've used the stamp, but you can use your template which has the numbers in there if you wish to. So let's have a look at the template for the month. So we're going to start, as always, with our cover page, and you do have a blank there. If you wish to cut anything out, you can cut it, print it out on sticker paper, cut out, stick it in, whichever you wish. So there is our cover page, and then we transfer through to our weekly to view, and then obviously just the little details transfer across onto the daily pages. Just a little bit of art to calm you down. I reckon they would take a maximum of like 10-15 minutes. It could just be a nice little daily little thing for you to do. So your habit tracker, and then our mood tracker over here. So the idea, let me just zoom in, for your mood tracker is that you do have the stalks drawn in for your trees. If you're not feeling great, then your tree is looking a little bit bare. If you're good, you've got a fuller tree, and if you're great, we've got a big old fluffy tree. So the idea is for each day you fill in how you're feeling. You can do that with paint, or if you had like a felt tip pen, you could just like scribble it in a felt tip. That's fine. You don't have to do watercolor for all of these, but obviously if you wanted these blurred off effects, then yeah, you could use watercolor. I did see a tutorial, I think it was on Pinterest, somebody was making this effect using stamps and like a sponge. So you've got that if you wanted to give it a go. But let's go back to our main page, and this is where we'll be creating our cover page today. So let's have a look. Oh look, this is, I'm continuing, I nearly killed, oh, what's that? I've got a big old gap. But this is all of our journaling, all of our templates. So I'm continuing, even though part of me was like, oh, new year, new journal. But I'm like, no, let's finish the one that we started. So we've already got our bullet journal set up. If you haven't, you can go back and take a look at that video. Everyone's got access, whereas this tutorial is only for our creative members. So if you're new with us, then you won't know about the little hack that I like to do on the back. So if you take our hexagonal pen, which is actually 2B lead in here, which is why it's quite easy. I just want to quickly sketch on the back because I want to just know where everything's going. I'm not tracing everything exactly, but it gives me an idea of layout before I start. So I'm just going to quickly, I don't need to do all the trees because I just need to know an idea of where they're going to be. And if you were doing the dates, then you would do that as well, but I don't need to worry about that. So I flip it over and I'm just going to quickly sketch where I want things to go. So I know that there's going to be a tree in here, so I'm just going to go squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. And for this, I'm just doing a squiggle. It's as easy as that, but it just gives me an idea of where I want the paint to go. So I know there's a tree there, and I'm just going to outline a little bit of that, not too much. And for this, I'm literally just going to do triangles where each point of the tree kind of comes. You don't have to do this, you can just do it by eye, but for me, I've kind of worked this. I do it, draw it, and then I kind of place it on the CAD and get it all squared up. So I know that it kind of works on a page. So that's what I'm left with, really faint lines, just an outline idea of where we're going. So now I'm going to take my paint. I've already got quite dirty blue water, which is from doing the bullet journal setup. So actually I might be only using that for now because this background is just a watercolour wash. So we're going to be using the medium round head paintbrush rather, and not too much water because this paper isn't watercolour paper. Although it's quite thick, it will take the paint without bleeding through. Just to show you how good our journals are, I've obviously done watercolour. You can see the paper's gone bowed because of the water, but there's no bleed through. So although your paper might go a little bit funny, it will straighten out over time when it's in your journal, and it won't bleed through, which is amazing. So we're just going to pop in, like I said, water on the brush, not too much because we know the paper isn't great. So where I've done these kind of squiggles, I'm just adding that in. And then I might need to get some clean. This is just my water. This is how dirty the water is from before. So I might actually get a clean bowl of water just to blend this to nothing because it's obviously got quite a lot of pigment in. So if we do that, I might just grab some clear water. Here we go, just some clear water there, just to clean my brush off and to be able to blend these bits here to almost nothing because, like I said, my water was quite pigmented already. So then we're going to do the same down here where our deer is. We know we want a little bit of colour, but I've kind of gone in with my water first and I'm just dropping some colours in. I know I've got a tree there and a tree there, but I'm going to go over those with a bit more pigment, but this will just give it a little bit of shadow behind. And also I'm going to load my brush with a bit of pigment there and just kind of drop that in and watch it go, really. Let it do whatever it wants to do. There we go. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, and we just need to wait for this to dry. So I suggest you go grab a cuppa and join me back here when this is dry. Okay, so we're not quite dry, but I think we're dry enough for me to come down and work on the trees a little bit more. So for the trees, I am using this flat-headed brush, and what I'm going to do is put a little bit more pigment, less water on my brush because we want these trees to be in the foreground. So I'm just doing a mix of this kind of stormy blue, and again, sorry because I don't have any references I can give you, but I'm just making like a mix of blues, and we're going to use the flat brush. And what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom in for this. It's the same technique as we've done on the bullet journal setup, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but some of you may not have watched that yet. So we're going with a stalk, and then we're popping a couple of dots at the top, and then we're almost growing the tree in width as we go down. And then once we get to the kind of width of our brush, we're going to just dab to the left. So I'm starting in the middle, dabbing to the left, start in the middle, dabbing to the right. And I'm just doing that all the way down to the base. I'm just going to add a little bit more blue rather than the kind of tealy colour as I go down. I want it to be a bit darker than that. Clean my brush a minute. Just trial and error. And this is the thing, there's like no right or wrong, really. It can be as messy or as neat as you like. You can have some really washy kind of trees. It doesn't need to be as kind of fir tree looking as that. So all the way down to the bottom, and there we've got one tree. I'll zoom in a little bit closer so we can go in more detail next to it. So again, we're starting with a stalk. So I'm loading my brush with more pigment than water because we want it to be in the foreground. And I'm starting with a center almost stalk, but I guess obviously it's a trunk because it's a tree, not a branch. And then this one I'm going to kind of come upwards with my brush, like this, just to kind of give it a different shape, which is going to add texture into our kind of forest that we're building. And I'm also going to add in a little more of that navy blue colour onto my brush, just to kind of almost make it go darker as we get to the bottom. Kind of like that colour. And it's one of those things, I'm never going to have the same colour because I'm just mixing it as I go. I'm not kind of mixing it onto a colour palette, which I guess, you know, if you were going to use the same colour over and over, that's what you would do. But I am not really a watercolour artist. So this is really just trial and error and a bit of bodge. And as I said on the other video, it's also a bit of Bob Ross, because this is how I used to remember him can't speak today, painting trees. I used to watch his tutorials when I was growing up, and I said on the other video I never actually painted, and I guess this is like the first time. This is the first time I've actually had a go at painting this kind of foresty thing, after watching it for all those years and thinking, oh, that looks dead easy, I reckon I could give that a go, and then never actually getting around to it. And here we are, living my best life at the age of 42. Finally doing a tree. Yeah, I think maybe I want to try and do a bit more painting. I don't know. When I do things like this, I go, oh, you know, I really miss it. I wish I had more time to be more creative. And I get to do it obviously through journaling, which is great. And the times when I design the planner front covers, that's a really creative time of year for me. But other than that, life just kind of takes over, doesn't it? So I'm going to speed the camera up now because you understand what's going on. I'll speed it up and finish the rest of the tree line, and I'll join you on the other side. Okay, so there we go. There's our tree line done. So again, we're going to need to wait for this to dry a little before we can work into it some more. So I'll come back in a little bit and we'll be ready to paint on top. Okay, so this is kind of dry, and again the paper is curling a little, but don't worry, because once you close your journal and have been using it for a while, closing it and popping things on top of it, it'll straighten out pretty soon. Let's just double check. You'll see there's no bleed through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load up my brush. I'm using the flat brush again, but this time I want a little bit of a mixture. I don't want it to be as heavy with the pigment of the paint. I want it to be a little bit more watery, but not as watery as the background. So it's kind of like somewhere in between. And we're just going to drop in our trees. So same thing again. So we want our branch, our trunk going up. And then we're just going to use a little bit of more water this time. So you won't get as clear a line. It'll be a little bit more blurry. Look, if I zoom in, be able to see a bit better. So it's not as clean a line, definitely more blurry because we're working with a bit more water. And then, but the same principle where we're going out towards the base, and this tree here is actually gonna stop in the middle. So he's one that's not as full and bushy, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So again, over this side, we're just going to have our kind of water, and then the tree. And again, it's not going to be a full tree. It's just going to be to about there, and I'm happy with that. And then over up at the top here, we're going to have a similar tree again. Mixture of pigment and water, but not too much water. It's just that happy medium, and I want this one, I'm going to move it in a bit, so up this way. I'm just going to add a bit more water to my brush. It's coming out, as you can see that, but that's fine because that's the trunk, so I don't mind that being a little bit heavier, but just going to a little bit lighter for the branches. Oh, still quite dark. Just mix it with a tiny bit of white, and I want a bit more water. Okay, let's see how that's working out. It's a bit better. And our branches just coming out, and again with this one I'm going to have it stopping in the middle. And that's my last tree. So we're going to need to wait for these to dry again, and join me back when these are dry. Okay, so we are a little drier than we were before. So let's zoom in. We will be adding our titling and our little deer. So what I'm going to use is my 0.8, which I'm using a lot for titling now. So if you're ever wondering how it's looking kind of thick, but not as thicker than the hexagon pen, but not as thick as the Tombow, it's because I am now using this 0.8 pen, which I am really liking. So we've put January in there. And then I'm going to swap. Just realised that my A isn't quite closed. Looks a bit funny, doesn't it? Stretched it out a bit there. But I'm going to go in with the deer. And actually for the deer, I'm going to use a 0.1 just to sketch him in. And then I'm going to use my fine paint, my pointed fine paintbrush to colour him in, but just so that I've got the outline, I'm gonna use my 0.1. So there's his like antlers here. Again, you can trace this through from the template, and then he's gonna have some ears. Can you see this? Shall I zoom in a bit more? There we go. So he has some ears, and then his neck, and can just put his legs. The kids are obviously home and they keep on coming into the kitchen wanting food. So I have to keep, I'm kind of like stopping and starting anyway, waiting for it to dry. But yeah, they're on snack mode where everything is just in need of a snack. So there we've got our outline, and as I mentioned, I'm using my fine point paintbrush. I keep saying pen. It's not very often that I would use a paintbrush, is it? We haven't done a lot of painting. I don't want to scare you off, but I just feel like it's not what we're doing. Like when you break it down, it's manageable and it doesn't have to be scary, does it? So we're just going to go in with a heavier blue, and because I've got my outline, I can be a little less careful, because it's just a matter of colouring in within the lines. It just gives you that confidence to kind of put the strokes on the page when you've got a guide, and in pen as well, because I think sometimes in the pencil it's not easy to see. So we're just going to fill that in there, and the legs. There we go. There's our deer. So let's zoom out and we'll see the whole thing in action. Now you can then fill in your monthly calendar. I'm going to be using my stamp, or you can cut out, as I mentioned, you can cut out from my template, or you could print it on a sticker paper maybe. New Year's Day is a Sunday this year, so our week is starting on a Sunday. I like to start my calendar on a Monday, so I'm just gonna see, I want it somewhere in the middle. Let's go here and hope that it doesn't smudge. Yay, I'm happy. So there we go, that is our January cover page done. I can't wait to see how you guys get on. If you've got any problems or if you're worried about anything, drop me a message and I'll see if I can help you. But in the meantime, enjoy our watercolour challenge this month and enjoy New Year. Happy New Year, and see you on the other side. Take care now. Bye.